When humanity joined the Galactic Council, it believed the stars would finally welcome them as equals. For centuries, Earth had watched from the shadows while ancient species ruled the heavens. When the invitation finally came, humans walked into the shining halls of the Council with hope glowing in their hearts. They expected unity. What they received instead was humiliation. From the moment they arrived, whispers followed them. The Council's representatives, tall beings with jeweled eyes and centuries of pride, looked at them as if they were children who had wandered into a meeting of gods. Humanity's world was labeled developing. Their technology was called primitive. Even their courage was dismissed as recklessness. At first, the humans tried to adapt. They offered trade routes, shared medical breakthroughs, and even agreed to disarm their border fleets to prove peace. But their gestures were met with silence or worse, laughter. When a Terran ambassador proposed an equal vote on defense policies, the council chambers filled with derisive murmurs. The Speaker of the Council, a being of immense stature, had said coldly, "The humans have yet to earn a voice among the stars." That day, humanity learned what it meant to be ostracized. Back home, the news hit like a storm. The great cities of Earth, Mars, and Titan burned with anger. People who once dreamed of unity now spoke of betrayal. The Council had used them for labor, for resources, for trade, and then cast them aside when the balance of power was threatened. The words of the Council speaker echoed across the networks, replayed endlessly, until even the most patient diplomats could no longer defend them. For a while, humanity waited. They sent envoys. They pleaded for reconsideration. But the Council closed its doors and moved on. Their fleets patrolled the core worlds, keeping the outer rim under watch. That region, far from the polished planets of the Central Powers, was considered worthless. A stretch of empty space, broken moons, and forgotten stations. It was there that humanity turned its eyes. At first it began quietly. Cargo ships carrying colonization supplies departed from Mars under simple manifests. Mining vessels drifted beyond mapped sectors. Tiny settlements began to appear on desolate worlds with thin atmospheres and harsh storms. The Council noticed but did not interfere. They believed humans would fail. They always did, after all, in the Council's eyes. But humanity did not fail. They adapted. They built domes where the air was poison. They carved tunnels beneath frozen crusts and grew food in synthetic soil. They mined metals that had once been dismissed as unusable, and found ways to make them work. The harshness of the outer rim became their teacher. Every challenge hardened them. Every setback became a lesson in survival. As the years passed, small colonies became cities. Those cities became networks. Networks became nations. And soon the humans no longer called themselves council members. They called themselves Rimward. It was not just a name. It was a declaration. The outer rim began to hum with life. Starships marked with the insignia of independent human worlds cut through space with quiet confidence. The Council watched with growing unease. To them, the rim was supposed to be a wasteland. Yet here were humans turning barren systems into thriving economies. They were trading not only among themselves but also with species the Council had long ignored. Then came the moment that changed everything. A small mining world called Orion, near the edge of Council space, found itself under attack. Pirates, remnants of ancient wars, descended upon its stations, plundering and burning. The Council sent no aid. It was too far, too unimportant. But the humans came. 3 heavy cruisers from the Rimward fleet appeared in orbit. Their hulls were made from layered alloys scavenged from old designs. Yet their weapon systems glowed with new brilliance. They moved with precision and fury. Within hours, the pirate fleet was gone. Not driven off, but erased. When the smoke cleared, the humans began rebuilding the colony. News spread fast. The Council was shocked. For decades, they had considered the humans a nuisance. Now they were heroes to the forgotten edges of the galaxy. Minor species began sending messages to Rimward stations asking for trade, for protection, for friendship. Humanity answered every call. And so a quiet revolution began. The Rimward Alliance was born. Not through conquest, but through unity. It was not made of soldiers, but settlers, miners, farmers, and engineers. They shared one belief, that everyone deserved a place among the stars. Not just the chosen few. When the Council tried to intervene, they sent emissaries first, demanding that humanity cease its unauthorized expansion. The Rimward governor, A calm man who had once been an ambassador simply replied, "We expanded because you refused to let us belong." The council did not take those words kindly. Sanctions followed. Trade routes were closed. Council patrols began seizing rimward ships. For a time, it looked like war was inevitable, but humanity did not fight immediately. They waited, prepared, and fortified. The turning point came when the Council ordered the blockade of an entire rim system, the Sereth Cluster. It was a network of 5 habitable moons orbiting a gas giant, home to over 7 million humans. The blockade cut off food, medicine, and fuel. The Council expected surrender within weeks. Instead, the Rimward Alliance united as never before. Cargo fleets from distant colonies defied the blockade, running through enemy patrols with reckless courage. Civilian ships formed convoys escorted by makeshift warships. When a Council destroyer fired on a relief vessel, every human ship in the sector turned toward it. What followed became legend: the Battle of Serath. The Rimward ships, outgunned and outnumbered, fought with raw determination. They did not have the Council's advanced drives or plasma arrays. What they had was willpower and ingenuity. Human engineers rerouted reactor cores for power surges. Pilots used debris as cover. Commanders gave orders from ships that were already burning. When it was over, the Council's blockade fleet was gone. Not a single human colony surrendered. The Council's forces retreated, leaving behind wreckage that drifted through the gas giant's rings like silent monuments to arrogance. After that battle, the galaxy changed. Worlds that once obeyed the Council without question began whispering of independence. Traders rerouted their ships through rimward space, where taxes were fair and protection was guaranteed. The Council sent warnings, then threats, but they were ignored. Humanity's outer rim had become the new frontier, a place where hope was stronger than fear. In time, the Council requested negotiations. Their fleets were spread thin, their influence fading. Humanity agreed to meet, but not in the shining halls of the Central Worlds. The meeting took place aboard a neutral station orbiting the star Virion. The Council delegation arrived first, draped in ceremonial robes and pride. The humans arrived in simple uniforms marked with the emblem of the Rimward Alliance, a stylized star breaking through a ring. The Council speaker spoke of reconciliation and mutual respect. The human leader listened in silence. When asked what humanity desired, he said only this: "We wanted to stand beside you once. You pushed us away. Now we stand on our own. We do not seek revenge. We seek balance." The words carried across the chamber like quiet thunder. The Council members shifted uneasily. They knew the truth. The Rimward Alliance was no longer a group of exiles. It was a power, one that could not be ignored or suppressed. After long debate, the Council offered recognition. Humanity accepted, but only as equals. The treaty signed that day marked the dawn of a new era. The Outer Rim became an independent protectorate, free to govern itself and trade with all who wished peace. Yet among the humans, few celebrated wildly. They knew the stars were not kind, and the Council's pride would not fade easily. But they had learned something far more valuable than victory. They had learned self-reliance. Years later, stories of those days were told in classrooms across the rim. Children learned how their ancestors had turned isolation into strength, how they had built cities from dust and defended them against impossible odds. They learned that unity did not come from being accepted by others, but from believing in their own worth. On a quiet world near the edge of known space, a monument stood. It was not grand, just a simple tower made of alloy and stone engraved with the words, "Rejected by the stars, we forged our own." Visitors came from many worlds to see it. Humans and aliens alike stood beneath its shadow, reminded that greatness does not come from permission, but from perseverance. Decades passed. The Rimward Alliance grew stronger. New ships, sleek and fast, patrolled the borders. Colonies expanded into nebula-rich systems where no Council fleet dared to go. Trade flowed like rivers of light between stars. Some said humanity had become what the Council once claimed to be, the keepers of progress. But the Rimward leaders always remembered the lesson that began it all. Power was meaningless without purpose. The Outer Rim existed not to dominate, but to ensure no one else would ever be cast aside as they had been. And so, when distant colonies sent distress calls or smaller species asked for aid, human ships came, not as conquerors but as protectors. Wherever they went, hope followed. The outer rim became a symbol across the galaxy, a reminder that even those banished from the halls of power could rise higher than those who cast them out. As the centuries turned, the stars told the story again and again. The tale of a species once called Rekkel,